Welcome to the Fireside Chat on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network by Run, Try, Bike. My name is Jason Bahamundi. I am the founder of Run, Try, Bike, and I guess the brains behind all of this, although I'm not sure there are a lot of people who would say brains behind all of this. The Fireside Chat podcast is our oldest on this network. It is the one where we get in depth with our guests, and I'm super excited to have Truth Bachman coming on the show today. If that name rings a bell, it's because you have read an article about them on our website, runtrymag.com, that was written by Mike Knapp and involved the New York Frontrunners. It was a fantastically written article, and it's a fantastic story. And while I didn't get to meet Truth while I was in New York, I happened to be going through Central Park and caught a glimpse of the New York Frontrunners during the team championships, I think is what it's called, through New York Roadrunners out there, which was really cool to see that group of athletes celebrating their accomplishments and victories amongst the other teams that were out there. Anyway, before I bring Truth on, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and if you use Spotify, comment on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, because it really does help us in getting great guests like Truth onto our show. I'm going to ask you for 5 stars, but if you're inclined to give me less than 5 stars, please send me an email at jason@runtrymag.com with how we can improve our show or shows to get that 5-star rating from you. Appreciate your time. And now let's bring Truth onto the show and have a wonderful conversation. Hi, Truth. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. I am super gassed up because we just spent about 10 minutes behind the scenes having a great conversation, and I didn't want to ruin it before we got here.
Sure.
So one of the things I ask people as an icebreaker, you're in New York City and it involves pizza. So it will be interesting to hear your take on this. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Oh, it's a nay for me, but I think that I don't judge anybody for pineapple on their pizza. I just think for me, I'm a purist. Like I love a thin slice. I love a cheese. I love a really like robust, like kind of like acidic sauce.
Yes.
And I love to be able to fold it.
Yes. I am in your camp. And the reason why I don't like pineapple on pizza or enjoy it is because I've always said, who wants to add more acid to their acid? Because I also like acidic tomato sauce when I eat my pizza. If it's too sweet, it changes the flavor dynamics for me.
Now, I also know that there's like the Hawaiian, so it's like you've got like the pineapple and then you've got the ham, which I think if you're going for then there's like more tastes that are in the mix. I do see it. I do see the vision. For me, I'm simple. Like I really love the basics, you know?
And I always tell people that's more for you on your side, and I have more for me on my side. And we can always eat dinner together.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, I really want to get into this conversation with you. I think it's an important conversation to have, having showcased athletes that are part of the queer community throughout our 5 years in business. A few years ago, like I mentioned to you, we changed our Pride logo, our logo to the Pride logo. We're going to take it down after June 30th, like every other company does. And it struck me that people in the queer community don't stop being queer on July 1st, the same way I don't stop being Puerto Rican on October 16th when Hispanic Heritage Month ends, and I've left it up. And here's the thing that, thank you. And here's the thing that has resulted from that, and I'd love to get your thought on this. I have had a number of queer athletes, but also athletes from other marginalized groups say to me, seeing that Pride flag logo told me that this was a supportive space for me to share my story. When you see, whether it's a business or another person wearing the Pride flag, does that give you a sense of support for who you are as a person and what you do?
I think growing up queer, there's always a healthy dose of skepticism you have around everything, especially when it comes to other people wearing something that signals part of your identity.
Okay.
Right. So that's not to say it's good or bad. It's just to say like, my spidey sense has gone up. And now I'm watching a little closer this interaction. So it's one thing, I think, to say, does Chase Bank have the pride flag up during Pride Month and then it disappears for the next 11 months? Or is it another thing to say, I'm talking with a person, I've noticed they have a pride pin on, I might be curious to ask about that, right? So I think always there's a healthy dose of curiosity and skepticism, and it's sort of like the conversation that then unfolds from those two things.
And this is why I love having conversations, because just the other day, I saw a gentleman riding his bike on the Strand in Hermosa Beach, and he had a Puerto Rico shirt on. And I immediately thought to myself, I wonder if he's Puerto Rican, or if he just it was a Team Puerto Rico baseball shirt. Or does he just like the players that played for Team Puerto Rico and isn't actually Puerto Rican? So I can see sort of the context in which you're making that reference to, and it's a great perspective to have.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's always such a great, I guess, into the conversation. Like, I think a great way, like if you notice somebody wearing like a pin or a pride flag or something, I think it's always a great way to introduce yourself and be like, hey, what are your, like, my name's Truth. I use they them pronouns. Like, what's your name? What are your pronouns? It's like a really easy handshake to sort of like meet a new person and get curious. And I think curiosity is always a good thing,
Absolutely. And this leads me to something you said when we were getting the show started. I wrote it down. I wrote armor. Yeah. Because, we tend to put up armor around ourselves to protect ourselves.
Absolutely.
Right. And so how do we blend this curiosity and armor at the same time?
Okay, this is a conversation I've literally been having with my friends for the last like 2 weeks. So I think one thing that tends to happen when you are more femme presenting is people sometimes like to approach you and maybe start talking to you in ways that you're not really sure if there's like a motive behind that, or if there's like an intention, or if there's a like there's sort of a is this person being friendly, or are they like trying to get somewhere with this conversation? Is this conversation a means to an end? And I've noticed myself over the years of that putting up this kind of armor with people where I think I can like, and I don't like this, like I think I can come off sometimes like a little removed. But that is literally solely because I'm just like not sure what the intention of the conversation is. But I'm like practicing an exercise, which is sort of to dissolve my ego a little bit. Okay. And just be open to where an interaction is going to take me, knowing that I have the wherewithal at this point in my life to like stop it if it doesn't feel like it's going in a healthy direction, right? But literally, like it's such a tricky dance of like, the armor is there for your protection, but it also could be keeping you from things that could be like serving you, right? So I think part of getting older and being an adult is being like, how do I discern these sort of differences,
You just reminded me, I listened to an episode of South Beach Sessions probably a year or two ago. They had NBA star Baron Davis on, and he talked about gated communities. And he said, he said the gated community that he was living in wasn't keeping people out, it was keeping him in. And I thought that perspective was wild, because we oftentimes think of the armor or the gated community from preventing people from coming into our space. But sometimes it prevents us from going out into other spaces, which is essentially what you're saying, correct?
And on the flip side, there have been periods of my life where I've been like the total opposite, which like probably to a fault of like, I had this practice I was doing for a while, and I share this with anybody who wants to try it for themselves, as a friend shared it with me. But I would walk down the street in New York. There's tons of people in New York. You're on the subway, you're on the street. And anytime somebody met eyes with me, I would just say hello.
Okay.
Which, like, sometimes people are like, whoa, what? Like, why are you talking to me? Like, what's going on? Sometimes people would be like, hey. sometimes people would like totally look away and pretend it didn't happen. But I think that that hello is such an unexpected invitation,
Yes.
especially in a place like New York where like lots of people have their armor up and we're all
Yep.
kind of walking around with that every day.
Yep.
So I was challenging myself in a period of my life, actually around the time I started coming out as non-binary, to be more open to the world. And it led me down a lot of really, I guess for lack of a better word, interesting roads that took me to these really unexpected places. And, you know, life is phases, like you were saying earlier, that sometimes we have more energy to push through things, and sometimes we have less. Sometimes we're in phases of expansion, sometimes we're in phases of retraction. And I think being aware of what our energetic need is at a time can help us sort of keep that balance and not go too far in one direction, you know?
So what I'd like to ask you then, as a follow-up to that, with the
Mm,
note I wrote, was if you don't mind telling me about your reaction when Mike reached out to you
mm.
and sort of made eye contact with you and said hello. Like, what was your initial reaction?
I was thrilled. I mean, like, especially, I feel like from where I stand in Frontrunners currently as the trans non-binary director at large, and I think this is part of why I'm having this conversation with myself, is like part of my role in that is to connect with people, not only our membership, but also you and Mike and the broader community of people who are like, hey, I'm curious about this thing, or I'd love to hear about this thing, or I'd love to know more. And I'm like, yes, like I want to show up for you all and also for my own community in that way, because it is important. And I do think, as we were saying earlier, strength in numbers, and people can't be on your side if you don't let them in, you
Yeah.
know? So I think it really, there has to be some of that softening. You know, and it's hard for any community that has felt marginalized or is constantly in the fire of the sort of social eye, to have that sort of softness. But I do think it's important that we practice it for sure.
I'm wondering, as you're giving that answer,
Hmm.
what you're finding as the biggest obstacle to getting
Hmm.
people who are non-binary into the sport of running. Is it
Ooh.
acceptance as being a non-binary athlete, or is it I just don't run? Like,
It's twofold, because it's like, first of all, you know, you tell your trans friends like, hey, I'm in this group, blah 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 blah, you should come for a run, and they're like, baby, I ran a mile in high school, and I'm like, not, I'm like, I don't do cardio. I'm a power lifter. I do taekwondo. Like it's like a whole other set of things. I'm like, respect, fine. Like not everybody's into running, and I totally could accept that. It's like pineapple on pizza. But I think with the other sort of conversation that's, I know, ongoing in our group is like, you know, there are, I think when we think about trans and non-binary runners, we have to think about more than one community, and by that I mean specifically white people
okay,
who who are also in that umbrella, but who may not feel safe in a particular space or comfortable in a particular space because of its proximity to whiteness.
okay,
So, and that's the thing to remember, is that like non-binary people, trans people, we come in all shades, colors, shapes, like we are everybody. We
right.
are every culture, we are every time, place, you name it. So I think part of that is, it's like, where is the relationship between race, gender, and then athletic fitness, and how do those sort of puzzle pieces all
Yeah,
play a
I didn't,
role
that's a
in
great point.
welcoming who, like that sort of body affirmative space or gender affirmative space. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we often silo things, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we say queer athlete or BIPOC athlete
Right.
or body positivity athlete, but to your
Mm-hmm.
point, right,
Mm-hmm.
your community is all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to be struggling with these conversations from various points of view.
Mm-hmm. And it's never one clear cut thing. So I think part of my curiosity is what spaces that do not yet exist that that can feel more encompassing and community led can we create and imagine as part of this larger sort of thing that's happening around trans athletes and non-binary athletes. So maybe it isn't one particular group, or maybe it isn't one particular run or race, but is there a series of community initiatives that we can have? Is there a buddy system where if someone, doesn't feel comfortable getting home past a certain time, perhaps wearing their cute little running shorts and sports bra, that they can go home with somebody in their neighborhood, and that there can be like a sort of pairing and sharing there, because that's also part of it too, of like, how do you navigate gender presentation and gender euphoria in a place like New York City where there is so much other noise.
Yeah.
And so I think those pathways and systems of friendship and companionship that maybe aren't as visible yet are exciting to sort of dig into and figure out how we can make them real.
I wrote the word privilege down as you were talking, because I guarantee you that there is somebody who has not experienced anything that you've talked about that just said, well, just go home. How hard could it be? Right? Just go. And the privilege that rings through in that statement is loud. And the reason why I bring it up too is because I interviewed the We Run Long founders, Kelsey, Rebecca Bowman, and they have a coach, Becky Croft, and they are all Indigenous runners. And as we were talking, I could see and hear the emotion in their voice about running on trails and being safe and being out in those spaces, to the point where I thought to myself, I just run trails all the time. My privilege was being a male in that situation, right? Where I didn't think anything of it from a safety perspective. And now you're bringing this safety concept into the conversation as well. And instead of me saying to myself, how hard could it be to just go home on the subway, right? There's a million people there and everything else. But the reality is, it's not that easy.
And like, even like personal example, like the other night, this was like a week and a half ago, I had just run a track workout. I was like I was doing my long run. So part of my long run was a track workout. I was with a bunch of friends, and then I was running back home through Brooklyn to get home and finish my 15 miles. In the last, and it's always like so close to home too. In the last like 2 miles, this guy on a motorcycle rides up on the sidewalk, and I was wearing a sports bra and just like some cute shorts and like my bandana. And I think he thought at first that I was like a cis woman. So he comes up behind me and is like, "Hey, baby, this." And I think he said, "Do you have a boyfriend?" I was like, "Yeah, I have a boyfriend." And then he's talking to me, and he's like, just saying all this kind of stuff, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'm bisexual, and this and da 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 da. And do you have any friends? And do you do this?" And it's just like, usually I'm like, I feel like I'm fast enough that if some guy is gonna approach me in that kind of a situation, I can just like, and I'm already in motion, like I can just run. But he was on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what literally are you to do but then try and make this person feel comfortable so that they don't attack you, right? And that you can just go about your merry way, but also diffuse the situation. And that's, again, it's that we're back on this conversation about like, where's the armor, where's the openness, where's the armor, where's the openness,
And I love that we can have this conversation, you and I specifically, and for the Run Try Bike audience to hear these conversations, because I would imagine that cis women have also experienced what you just explained. I'm sure that there have been some cis men that have experienced something similar that you've just explained that has put them in an uncomfortable position as well. And realize that we're all dealing with the same bullshit. So stop gatekeeping each other.
Yeah. And we hope for safety. And anyway, so that's why I think these sort of networks of support, organizing a run or a couple of community runs or events in which there's this kind of buddy system, or in which there is a larger sort of community accountability that goes beyond just the run, but like the things that surround the run
So
as
what
well.
kind of steps can either run clubs or let's, make it slightly bigger, events do to signify and let you know that this is a place for you where you can feel supported and safe and participate in our events, because we want to be part of the community as well. Like what?
Mm. Well, you know what's so interesting about that is I used to think the answer to that was, well, if they have a non-binary race category, then it should be fine. But that's actually not the case, because then you find out it's like, oh, we lost the results because our system can only process 2 of the genders. Or you can register as non-binary, but you actually have to, we only have a men's heat and a women's heat. So you have to pick one and hope that people like don't get mad. And so you're just like, I hope that if I pick the wrong, like I don't pick the wrong one, or that people don't get mad at me, or that, or we're not doing prize money for non-binary runners in this race like we're doing for the top men and women in this race. So I think there are larger sort of things that just make the playing field equitable. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's trial and error. Like I've signed up for races before and I've been like, oh, this was a total mistake. And then I've also signed up for other ones and been very pleasantly surprised and just like blown out of the water by how well it was thought out and put together. And so I think we're still in that trial and error phase.
Are there leaders nationally that you can point to who are helping with, putting together verbiage for races that, show that the queer community is welcome, and not just click the button that says non-binary and then move you into male or female category because, they don't know how to use an Excel spreadsheet?
Yes. There's a person, their name is Jake Fedorovsky.
Yes.
They have an incredible guide for gender inclusion in many different ways in racing. That it's available online. It's a totally free PDF and resource that people can download, race directors can download. I think that's probably the most comprehensive one that comes to mind. But I do think about, like the international frontrunners. I do think about Team New York Aquatics and how they're sort of on the forefront right now of working with like U.S. swimming and making sure that transgender swimmers and athletes and multi-sport athletes are not having to be outed in order to participate even in just community events. So there are people out there that are doing that work. Also, I mean, this should go without saying, but like, it's really helpful to have athletes like Nikki Hiltz who are out here in the space, just first of all, like dominating, absolutely dominating the field, but then also being open about their transition, about having top surgery, about, like all of the things that they're going through as a non-binary and trans athlete in a competitive Olympic
like
space.
For me, so I've followed Jake for a few years on Twitter, and obviously we've read the stories of Nikki and their accomplishments. Close to home for me is Rach McBride, who is an incredible athlete at both the half iron distance and gravel cycling. They just won the non-binary division at Gravel Worlds in Nebraska. They have been a part of our community, the Run Try Bike community, basically from day one. And I'm super lucky that they continue to say yes to every request I have to come on a show. I don't know that I'm a fantastic person to chat with, but I appreciate their coming on the show, and they're going to be part of a panel discussion that we're going to be hosting with the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse on September 18th, where I'm going to be talking with Rach as well as Allison Roy, who is a blind ultra trail runner who just set the course record at the Vermont 100, and Des Taylor Douglas, who is a queer Black man who is a trail runner. And just being able to have this type of conversation with, again, what we had said earlier, which is, oftentimes we silo ourselves into these areas. And now we're going to bring this panel forward to have what I hope to be not just honest, but vulnerable conversation. Because I believe the same way you said when you would make eye contact with somebody, you would say hello, that communication and being able to hear and see somebody changes everything versus a post on Twitter or an Instagram post.
Oh yeah. I mean, and this is like when I think about like change and affecting change, we deal in
Yes.
people. So while there are governments and systems and all kinds of social workings, our personal spheres of influence are the people we know, the people that are in our like immediate like neighborhood proximity, and like basically like family or people that we're connected to that maybe don't live around us but who are aware of us. That's really what we have, unless you have like a certain kind of celebrity or you are a politician yourself. Like that is a different conversation, but I think for most people, like we all we have is that ability to sort of show up and be vulnerable and present with the people around us and be real,
And that, as you're saying that, I mentioned this in the intro, that I happen to be walking through Central Park on a way to meet a handful of people while the New York Roadrunners team championships was happening. And I saw all the various teams out there, including your team, the New York Frontrunners.
Yeah, we were there. Yeah.
And I wish I had a moment to stop and come over. I don't know if you were in the group or not, but I wish I would have had a moment. I was trying to get to my group of people that we're going to start a group run. And what I saw was joy. What I saw was celebrating individual accomplishments as well as club accomplishments. And I literally saw it for like 3 seconds, truth, because I was moving as fast as I could to meet people. When you are at an event like that and you're celebrating with your club, what is that feeling like to be embraced for you being you?
I mean, gosh. The marathon or any race, but I'm gonna go for marathon for a second because there's so many people cheering and so many, what became clear to me about that kind of an event is that the marathon is a team sport. In that the marathon is not a thing that you achieve, it's a thing that comes out of you.
That's great. Yeah.
Right? And everyone has to do it in order for it to be real. So the marathon actually, as we experience it, is all of those people, all of those stories, all of those lives and hardships and trials and miles of training and sacrifices made and early mornings, all of those, and persevering to the end of that finish line, that is actually what the marathon is. And so to feel that kind of a sweep, it's like a big like a jet stream. To feel that kind of a jet stream and to know that your team is there cheering you on, supporting you, is going to be there at the end, is those people that sometimes you get up and you run with and for in the morning. It's like why you're up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or 4 a.m., is because you're like, we've all agreed we're going to do this. Okay, we're going to do this. Right? So I think it is really indescribably powerful because for so much of my life, I felt so profoundly alone and so profoundly like there was nobody else in the world that was like me. And even though I still feel like a pretty singular person, like I don't feel like there are many people who are like me, I don't feel alone. And the difference is there are other people who have had similar experiences and they manifest in different ways. And the fact of the matter is we all decided to get up at 4 a.m. and show up at this bridge in the freezing weather to go run 26 miles, and so I think there's something really powerful about that, because all of those times that we may have thought in our life that you're alone. You'll always be alone. Your experience is isolated. This world was not built for somebody like you. Well, here's proof that that's not true, you know? And for a lot of us, we come into our queerness later in our life. And so it's not guaranteed that we're going to have a sense of that community. And so to have that now at this point in my life as an adult is really an irreplaceable experience.
You know, you don't know what the impact on somebody is going to be when you start talking to them. And I mentioned Des Taylor Douglas earlier. When I interviewed him for our Enduring Minds episode, he talked about moving to a new school, being Black at this new school, being queer at this new school. And it resonated with me because I grew up in the Bronx and then moved to suburbia. So I went from being in school with Miguel's and Jose's and Juan's and Maria's to being in school with Kevin's and Tyler's. And it was a whole different world. And so you feel alone. And so I connected with Des immediately on that scenario. And you and I have, this is our second conversation. And I feel closer to you now because of what you just said in terms of feeling alone in your own world. And now you've got a group of people that you're training with at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. And while you're still an individual and you're unique to who you are, you're now part of this group. And I can't thank you enough for using words to express the feelings. Right? I think we often struggle, and that's where frustration comes in, is because we don't often find the words to express how we feel, and we struggle. And then when I hear you saying it, and you're literally taking my feelings and putting them into words, and this is why we communicate, and this is why we talk, and this is why when you see somebody on the subway and you make eye contact, you say hello.
If there's one gift that I am like so grateful for in my life, it's the gift of my artistry. And, you know, I grew up as a child actor. I've been doing it since I was 7 years old, started working when I was 12. And that's always been part of my life, is like communicating ideas, I guess, in front of people. But I think a part of it that developed later, which is like what I do a lot more now, is write. And I think what's the way that running and community have influenced my writing, it's like changed the way that I put pen to paper. It's almost as if like the feeling that I have when I'm on a lyric or on an emotion or connected to another person by looking in their eyes and saying hello and showing up and being present is the same kind of like animal feeling that I have when I'm in like the last mile of like a 10K, where I'm like just like ready to like go full Wolverine mode. You know what I mean? Where it really is something that taps me in very deep. And I was in a bike accident a couple years back, car accident, bike accident, and I had a concussion. And for about a year, I lost my ability to be able to pick the right word that I was looking for. And as a writer and as a speaker, you can understand how freaky that is, you know? And it took me about a full year through running, which rebuilds your like neurological connections with your brain and your muscles, and through a solid writing practice every day to actually finally get my brain back to the place where it was able to do that thing. And it's what you've just articulated is what I cherish, I think, so much, is that ability to name a feeling.
Yeah, 100%. Do you think it's easier for you to verbalize feelings? And I'm going to make an assumption, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if you're a child actor at the age of 7, you are not an introvert.
Right. You know, I definitely think, right. I definitely think I fluctuate. So it's like, you know, I'm a Gemini, so there's like 6 of me. But like the part of me that is really good at being public facing. Like, yes, I thrive on that. I thrive on community, on being garrulous, on speaking and creating those spaces. And I also am a writer and a composer, and like that's a
Yeah.
very quiet and thoughtful process where you're doing a lot of listening. And I'm like this energy where I fluctuate between the two. And I think it's that exact thing. Ooh, yes. I think it's that exact thing that gave me the ability to name what I was feeling in terms of my gender journey. To after having felt something for like ever, like I literally somewhere here in my apartment there. Oh my gosh, I have it. I drew a picture in an art class when I was 9 that was like 3 versions
Okay.
of myself. And one was a girl me, one was a boy me, and one was like me with like kind of like
Yeah.
androgynous sort of look. And it just said the title of it was like, "You don't know me, the truth is inside." And I've like I drew
That's
that when I was 9, you know
amazing.
what I mean? So like and I still have it. Like I've known this thing forever. And then finally when I started to have language, oh, boy and girl, they, them, boy, he, she, it's all, I'm all of it. Got it. Yes. Now I can talk about this thing in a way that is not so othering to people. It's not so over there. It's like, when have we all not felt a little more one thing or
Right.
another thing? When have we all fallen short of our gender in elementary school, where someone says, "Oh, well, you're not man enough for this," or "you're not, womanly enough for this." It's like there's always we're never living up to the paradigm of what
Yes.
these things are, and it's like, oh, so it is this just sort of like spectrum we move through, and I happen to find myself like right pretty smack dab in the middle of that spectrum, leaning more femme. And that having language for that made me not feel crazy.
Again, this is why I love talking to people. So we literally just published the Fiery Embers episode with Amanda Katz, who
Mm-hmm.
lives in New York City. She lives on Upper West Side, I think. But we were talking, and she's a Dominican Jew. And there were times where people would say, "You're not Dominican enough." And then there was another group that say, "You're not Jewish enough." Growing up, I'm a white presenting male, right? But I'm Puerto Rican 100%. And I would hear people make comments, and I was like, "I'm Puerto Rican. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, cut that shit out." And so to hear you have that same thought process of, questioning, shall we say, right? Like,
Totally.
this is why I love having these conversations, because the light bulbs that are going off will empower me to be a stronger version of myself in the next
Mm-hmm.
conversation that I have.
Mm, mm. I always so part of my like work as a creative, I have this universe of queer and trans superhero musicals called
Okay.
Shapeshifters. And in it, each of the heroes like learns to take the thing that others them and turn it into their superpower. And I feel like it's resonant with everybody, but I feel like it particularly resonates with young people because I think when we're at that crosshairs of identity, like in our like teens, 20s, like we really are searching for those answers and like how do I measure up and
Yes.
like all of those things. And I don't feel like I belong in any of these boxes. So like where do I belong? Do I belong nowhere? And it's like actually, you
Yeah.
belong everywhere. You belong doing everything and being like the fullest expression of whatever that is for you.
100%.
Um, and my hope through running and advocacy is to help more people feel like
Yeah, Alicia
superheroes
Lay, who
for
I
sure.
interviewed for Fireside Chat a number of months ago, said to me, like, and she's a Black ultra trail runner. She said to me, "I'm here to take up space." And
Hmm.
man, that was like a 2x4 to the face. In like, yes, yes, take up
Mm-hmm.
space, represent who you are and who you want to be surrounded by, because that, in my belief, is the only way we're going to change the way these sports are gate kept, where you're not a
Mm,
marathoner unless you run 2.5 hours, where you're not
mm-hmm.
a triathlete unless you do an Ironman, and all of these sort of stereotypical concepts behind all of this. If we all step into the space
Mm,
and take up that space, we change the narrative.
mm. And So two things I'm thinking about with that. One, I love that quote that you just said from the person that you were speaking with, because that is not just for that
Correct.
person, but it's also for the lineage of people who were denied that experience. And that her being there and taking up that space is not only unlocking the future for other people to be able to do that look and identify as she does, but also it is a way of honoring the past that brought us
100%.
here and the people who did not have that opportunity to do so, which is the magic of it. And then also, as the other thing that's just kind of spinning in my mind, I'm curious your thoughts on it actually, but how when we have these sort of physical tests of sports, like why we gatekeep it and say it's only for this kind of a body, or it's only for this kind of a fitness level, or it's only for this kind of a person who does this kind of a sport and wears this gear and had da 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 da, and like in what way our own perceptions of like what it means to be an athlete or to look like an athlete are kind of keeping us from our
So,
potential.
for those of you who are not able to see but are listening to this, I started to laugh at Truth's question to me because we talked about this earlier before we opened the show. Fear. Fear is the enemy of
Mm,
creation, is what Truth said to me. And I think fear is the answer to your question. So, in other words,
mm,
if I am a 3 hour marathoner and I
mm-hmm,
identify as a 3 hour marathoner and I wear that on my sleeve, and somebody finishes a marathon in 6 hours, somehow
mm.
I believe and I'm afraid that you're going to take my identity away as a 3 hour marathoner because somebody did it in 6 hours.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I no longer
Right.
hold this quote unquote superpower of having run it in 3 hours. I no longer have this superpower of
Mm,
qualifying for Boston, which is why I think there's so
mm,
much hate, for lack of a better phrase, against charity bibs. You didn't earn your way here.
mm,
You didn't, right? And it's like, okay, I didn't run a 2:45, but I had to raise $10,000, whatever that number is. That's hard
mhm,
too, right? There
mhm,
multiple things can be hard. Like, and so I think it's
mhm,
just a
mhm,
fear of ripping my what I'm identifying with, because now you're associating it
mhm,
with multiple things that are not me.
mm. And bringing that point back to especially like non-elite divisions of trans people in sports, I think it is that fear that certain people have about us. Like you're trying to take something that is mine, or you're trying to take something away. And it's like, baby, I don't want to take anything
Right.
from anybody. Like I want you to have yours just as I would like to have mine. And we can
It's not
have
a
it all.
sum-zero game. I
Uh,
don't understand why people perceive it that way, right? I'm a big
yeah.
believer, if when you come to sit at the table that I am eating at and there isn't a chair, it's not because there's no chair, it's because I haven't built a big enough table yet. Let me add
Mm,
extra seats to my table so you can come and hang out with us too, right? We
mhm,
This is
mhm,
this idea that it's a sum-zero game. Clearly, you can tell my voice has changed, my passion is raised, because it pisses
mhm,
me off that we're telling people that they can't be included in these things because of X, Y, or Z, which is made up bullshit, right? Like we came up
mhm.
with this metric for running a marathon. We
And sorry, I don't mean to
No,
cut you off. Go
I'm
ahead.
just going to keep rambling on about it. So thank you for cutting me off.
And just to add to that point, like I was having this conversation with my mom last night because and she asked very genuinely. She was like, "Why aren't there more? If trans people in sports is like such a big issue, like why are there not more like trans only teams?" And I was like, "Right, great question, because the numbers, are not high enough. Like like there just literally are not
Right.
that many of us." And so really then what this so like that's like competitive athletes, that's like athletes in general, that's like athletes that do like there just aren't that many of us. So the fact that we're having such a national and profound dialogue about such a small group of people really is less a conversation about sports, and I think really zeroes in on the fact that we're debating whether trans people should exist in public life
Correct.
at all. And that's what's, I think, so frightening about it. And why it's important to keep, just to keep connecting with these race directors and with these organizations and letting them see, like, we're not scary people. We're just like
athletes like everybody else.
Just showing up at the start line. That's it. Yeah.
So I'm an impatient person, and I want everything to be done yesterday. So I guess you answered my question, because I was going to ask you if the idea that, slow progress is still progress resonates with you.
Yeah, it has to, and it frustrates me. And there are some people in my community that actually keep me, like, way more accountable to that, because they're way better at playing the long game than I am sometimes.
I'm on your side, Truth. Let's change the world right now.
I'm over here just, like, dropping F-bombs and stuff, and, like, they're like, now wait. Yeah, but I do think it is true, and I think people have to have realizations for themselves. You can't force a point or a worldview on anybody.
Right.
We can't force the trans agenda on everybody, but we will try. No, but that people have to come to realizations in their own time. And I think if people are thoughtful, and I pray that they are, and if people like race directors who should, in theory, want to make their communities and runs as equitable as possible and for as many people as possible, my hope is that we can continue to, those realizations can continue to unfold, because people just want to be treated like everybody else.
And I hope that this conversation is one of those rocks that rolls downhill and gathers momentum, so that other people can hear and or watch the two of us having a conversation, laughing, enjoying the discussion about marathons and how it's a jet stream and moving you in celebration. Like, hearing that again is different than reading a post on Threads or Twitter or a static image, right? There is a voice to the face that's coming at you now on the screen, and you can connect with that a little bit further. And so I'm always grateful to have athletes like yourself who want to come on our show. And even if you're just prodded and I have to ask 17 times to come on the show, which Truth did not. They said yes on the first request. But to come on the show, my show specifically, and have these conversations, I think they're just vitally important, that not just a person in the queer community can take away, but anybody in any community who feels marginalized can take away. We are running out of time here. I know we could probably talk for the next 10 hours straight. We might have to get a show. Is Netflix around?
Yeah, right? What are they doing?
But I want to jump into our rapid fire food questions. Now, I say they're rapid fire, Truth, but I probably need to change the name of it, because take your time thinking about it. This is not one of those things that requires one-word answers. If you want to think about it and give me explanation, I'm here for it. Okay.
Got it.
Oreos. Are you a fan of the original, the double stuff, the Cakester, or the thin?
Okay. My take on the original Oreo is that it got thinner over time.
A lot of people say that.
Right? So the double stuff is actually, I feel, where the original Oreo used to be. So I'm going to go with double stuff.
Which is what makes the mega stuff now the double stuff.
Right.
Now, how do you eat your Oreos? Do you spin and scrape? Do you dunk? Or do you toss it back like an aspirin?
Ooh, definitely not the last one. If I'm feeling really naughty, first of all, I do think there's something to be said for a traditional, like, Oreo dip it in milk. It's like nice and, like, chewy, soft, like, love that texture. But if I'm feeling really like, ooh, yeah, I'm in the pocket, I'm dipping it in peanut butter.
Have you tried the peanut butter flavored Oreo yet?
Yeah, it's fine. But I feel like an Oreo dipped in peanut butter, it's like a whole different experience.
Have you gotten your hands on the Reese's Oreo combination that they've just put out? I haven't found it yet myself. I've been on the hunt. Do you have a
Okay.
favorite flavor of Oreo, or are you just the original? Give me the original.
Ooh. If I didn't do the original, I would probably go for peanut butter. I'm a huge
Gotcha.
peanut butter fan. But I think the original is great. I mean, like, why reinvent an amazing
I'm
double
with you.
stuffed wheel? You know?
So I rate all of the Oreo flavors I've ever had, and there's only two that have gotten 10 out of 10. One is the original, and the other is the blueberry pie that they re-released. It is
Oh.
phenomenal. Now, I haven't tried the apple pie a la mode yet, but the blueberry pie is a 10 out of 10. Like, no notes. You mentioned texture with dunking the Oreo.
Yeah.
So here's a texture cookie choice: chocolate chip cookie or oatmeal raisin cookie.
Oh gosh. Why are you doing this to me? So I think so I am a huge, like, when I'm having a bad day, I will walk down the street. If I see a good chocolate chip cookie in a window, it's over. I'm in. Like, I'm pulled in. That is my full de-stress. I don't know any, like, people are like going out for ice cream and stuff like that. I'm like, no. I want a chocolate chip cookie. Like, I'm like a 3-year-old. You know what I mean? So while I love an oatmeal raisin, like, speaks to me, would vibe with it. Chocolate chip cookie, especially if it's like the right texture, maybe has a little like melted butter or sugar in it. Maybe has, it's like a little pulley, chewy, but also crunchy. Like, if it's that, I'm
you and I can go to the bakery together. You'll grab your chocolate chip and I'll grab my oatmeal raisin. I'm a huge oatmeal raisin fan. You mentioned ice cream. Do you have a favorite ice cream flavor?
So I usually pick gelato. In my freezer, so I never buy ice cream. It's just like not a thing that I buy. I don't know why. But in my freezer, I do have from this past week these little they're like mochi ice cream with like a green little covering. Those things are so good. And what also is amazing is they're just like, I eat one and I'm like, that was the perfect amount. You know what I mean? Like, that hit the spot in a right way. So I really like the mochi flavor. If not, I'll go for like a gelato because it feels like a summer treat, and maybe get like a stracciatella.
Oh, so good. Oh, I'm drooling here. If you hear me swallowing hard, it's because the drool is like a faucet.
It's like a puddle, yeah.
Candy corn. Is candy corn a real candy, or is it just earwax covered in sugar?
Ooh, I mean, when you say real candy, is any candy real? They're all in a lab. I mean, that's how I feel every time I'm eating like a Cliff Block or like a gel or something. Like, when I'm race, I'm like, what actually is this thing? You know? So I'm gonna say candy corn is candy. Candy is in general not real, and it is definitely not corn. So
very diplomatic answer. Peeps get a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Peeps get a thumbs up if I'm like 14 years old and rediscovering Peeps. Peeps get a thumbs down from me now, because I think, I don't know, there's something that happens when you just like, you get older. Maybe it's the running and all that stuff. I'm just like, what's in this thing? What is this? What is like, I'm so like, oh my God, I'm like one of those people now, you know?
I love it. Is red velvet cake a real flavor, or is it just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom?
Oh, well, if she's dressed up, baby, she looks good. But I would say it's real. I don't think it tastes like chocolate to me.
Yeah.
You know? Like a chocolate to me, and I love chocolate. I like, it's a richer, more like robust. I feel like a red velvet is a little like, she's like silky, she's creamy, she's like sultry, but she's not giving me like rich vibes.
Favorite flavor of cake is?
Oh, German chocolate.
We just recorded a podcast for the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse, and we were equating cakes to endurance athletes. and German chocolate cake came up. I have my notes here. That's so funny that you mentioned this. German chocolate cake was the marathoner because everybody likes chocolate, which is your running, but not everybody likes coconut, which is like not everybody loves the marathon distance. So we made German chocolate cake the marathoner because it's a combination of love and hate.
Yeah, my dad used to make a really good Black Forest torte, which was like the German chocolate in like layers. There's like a melted butter chocolate layer. It's like cream. It's like so elaborate, and it's still to this day like one of the best, probably like worst for you, but like best like cakes I've ever eaten in my life. Yeah.
Sweet or savory for the rest of your life? Where are you going?
I'm going sweet. I definitely have a sweet tooth. I don't know what it is. And if I'm ending a night, if I'm ending an evening of like provisions, I'm always going to want to end with a sweet.
Now, the end of summer is unofficially coming up upon us, and Starbucks has already made that announcement because PSL has been released. Are you PSL or are you apple cider?
I'm apple cider. I think the PSL is a seasonal. She's timeless. She's classic. She's she's your favorite Meg Ryan movie. But there's something about it that is just a little too, I don't know, like it's a little in the candy corn zone for me.
I'm with you.
Right? Like a hot apple cider with like some cinnamon, a little sugar.
Can't be beat.
And that also has that like acid that I love too. It's got that like little like bite to it.
Are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
What's the order?
This is just a large black coffee. But if I'm feeling fancy, which I want to do in stressful times, is I will get a dirty chai with oat. So that's like 2 shots of espresso. It is like chai sweetness, chai tea latte with oat milk. It's like it's like the perfect like sweet but caffeinated drink.
The next time I'm in New York, I can see how our day is already going to get started. We're getting 2 dirty chais. We're going to eat a pie at some point, and then you're for dessert are going to have your chocolate chip cookie, and I'll have my oatmeal raisin cookie. Ideal day.
Yes, love it. Perfect day. Oh my god, that is a great post-marathon.
There you go. I'm in.
Are you going to be in?
I don't know if I'll be in New York for the marathon because I think it's actually the same weekend that I'm running a 50K out here in Santa Barbara. But I will be in New York around the holidays. I'll reach out to you via email and we'll see if we can connect.
Yeah, please.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty with not just me today, but also with Mike for the article that's on our website. Where can people find you? Where can people come and hang out with you on the internet?
Yep. So I'm at Truth Bachman on Instagram, and I'm truthbachman.com. And also you can like Google me, YouTube me. I have tons of things where I'm talking about running and marathoning and all of that. And I also have like tons of like music, plays, shows I've been working on. And that's something that I am really excited. We're going to be launching some things this fall too. So,
and I will say this, go to their website. The imagery is powerful. I got lost in a rabbit hole of just clicking around on your website when Mike sent over the article, and just the imagery is just so strong and powerful. It was moving, for lack of a better phrase. So thank you for doing what you do. For me, you have allowed me to think, and I cannot thank anybody for anything more than allowing me to think.
We need more people thinking. So I'm so glad to hear that.
Thanks, Truth. Have a great rest of your day.
Have a good one. Take care.
For those of you that managed to stay the whole hour with Truth and I, thank you so much. Time is the greatest gift that you can give to anyone, and you gave me the gift of your time. So thank you. Make sure you check out the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. And again, please give us a 5-star rating. And if you feel like we deserve less, send me an email, jason@runtrymag.com, so that I can learn from you what we can do better to earn that 5-star rating. Have a great one. We'll see you next week on the next